It's so early. I'm your host, Will Shelkoff, author of the Bitcoin Dog, following the descent to the Bitcoin C++ source code and contributor to Bitcoin Magazine. You can use my promo code BitcoinDog to save 10% on your tickets to Bitcoin Conference 2023. My guest today is Mark Maraia of markmaraia.com and author of the book Rainmaking Made Simple. Mark, so happy to have you back to talk about our new Telegram group.
Yes, I'm psyched to do so. Thank you for taking the initiative to set it up, since I'm a boomer and I'm a bit tech challenged.
Hey, you're on Telegram. That's pretty good.
That's true. That's true. That's way more than, well, let's put it this way. I have a Twitter account, but I'm never on Twitter unless I go to a Spaces meeting. But so Telegram I find to be far more useful for a whole bunch of things, as we'll get into. So
I'll put the Telegram link in the show notes for anyone listening to join. Our group is called hashtag 250 sats per dollar. And Mark, you've had the honor of giving the first few messages in the Telegram group. If you could please read aloud what you have written in the group, just so people can have a sense of the Telegram channel.
I'd be happy to. So it says, welcome to this group. Anyone in this group agrees that the Bitcoin network and protocol is worth 250 sats per dollar. That's sort of the intro. The other thing that I think you and I have talked about is that we're going to all agree in this chat, that's just you and I right now.
That's right.
That the unit of account is sats, not Bitcoin. And anyone is welcome to post any transaction that they have done where the parties have valued the Bitcoin network and protocol at the amount of 250 sats per dollar. You're also welcome to make an offer for either products or services for that valuation as well. And the reason, by the way, why sats is our unit of account, I think we covered this in the other podcast, is sats reduces the confusion between small b Bitcoin and capital B Bitcoin, which is the network. It also allows you and I to unilaterally, because it's a permissionless network, to value the Bitcoin network at whatever we agree to as a meeting of the minds. I also think it allows the well-informed and the best informed Bitcoiners to actually establish a market where they all agree that the Bitcoin network equals or has a 250 sats per dollar value. So we can do that, whether it's just you and I for the next 5 years, or if 50 people want to join us this month. I don't care. I think it's a market that's now sitting on our phone, and we'll see where it goes from there. I think it'll be fun. I appreciate your helping me set it up.
We're making it happen. I mean, we don't need to ask permission. We don't need to seek permission from some authority. Bitcoin, Satoshis, it's a permissionless protocol. I guess another thing to think of is, again, just asking this question, over the next 5 years, I expect the value of $1 to go down. So with that hashtag 250 sats per dollar, it's more just an emphasis on Satoshis as our unit of account. It's not necessarily meant to be a comparison to the dollar, right?
Right. Well, in fact, we could have done 250 sats per euro, because again, the valuation of the euro is roughly 1-to-1, but it doesn't matter. We can do it to any currency pair, but our unit of account, because we've moved to a Satoshi standard, we've moved to using that as our unit of account rather than whatever the currency is that we're dealing with.
That's right.
Yep.
So I mean, for example, you have the offer for sale is 1 2-foot by 3-foot replica of Domi for sale at 7,200 sats, plus shipping and handling. So
right.
that's always the kicker. But yeah, of course, well, that's not going to you. I mean, you know,
right. It's not going to me, and that's just going to cost me something. And the post office doesn't take sats, I'm sure. So I'm going to have to pay for that in dollars. So unfortunately, that doesn't solve, that part of the problem yet. But actually, and then I corrected it because when I did the math, it actually should be 7,500 sats.
Oh, okay.
Plus shipping and handling. But yes, so that's something that actually cost me $30 to print. I actually printed off a bunch of them. They're nice and thick. They're really high quality. They look like colonial style writing. They're exact replicas of the 9-foot by 12-foot version that was signed by thousands of Bitcoiners at the Bitcoin 2022 conference in Miami. So I am making one of those available at that price. So I'm willing to put my sats where my mouth is by letting go of, parting with one of these exact replicas for that sats amount.
Well, so it does make me curious. I mean, what do you mean when you say you reran the numbers in the math and you have a correction from 7,200 to 7,500? Like, what exactly went wrong there?
My cost was $30. If you divide that by, if you take 70, how did I do that? Take $30 and divide it by 250, and you're going to get, or maybe it's multiply. I don't know. I did the math. So,
so like, because that's kind of the question.
I think it was 30. I took 30 and I multiplied it times 250. So essentially I'm paying for the network, or I'm accepting payment for the network, and I'm giving the poster for free. Kind of like you did with your dollar.
Sure. There we go. 30 times 250 is 7,500.
Correct.
Yeah, that's where that comes from. So the question that I have is, let's say 5 years from now, we're at the Bitcoin 2027 conference. You do the 2-foot by 3-foot Domi poster again, but this time because the printer store still doesn't take Satoshis, this time the printer store says the same poster will cost $40 to print instead of $30 to print. 5 years from now, is the price you would ask for 8,000 Satoshis instead of 7,500 Satoshis in this Telegram group?
All else, if nothing
or
else,
not 100,000 Satoshis instead of, or 10,000 Satoshis instead of 7,500 Satoshis.
Asking me what I'm going to do 5 years from now is tricky. Because the price of Bitcoin will have changed. I think at some point the market will more fairly value the Bitcoin network and protocol. So the whole point of this chat is that you need a meeting of the minds. So I was a practicing lawyer for about 7 years. And what you learn in law school is you have no agreements until there's a meeting of the minds. All right. So you and I did the first 250 sats for valuing the Bitcoin network and protocol with your book, right? So we paid for the network.
Right.
You got paid for the network. You got nothing for the book, but you got paid for the network.
Yeah.
Okay. So we could do a transaction for your book tomorrow that could be different than that, or a year from now, or 5 years from now. Well, there's all kinds of things that are moving in the marketplace, including I may value the network less in a year. I don't think so, but I don't know. So that's what I'm saying. I can't really answer your question about what am I going to do 8 or 5 years from now. But what's important is whether there's 1, 2, 3, or 1,000 people that want to be in this chat and want to make a statement to the world or to each other. Because really at this point, it's just you and I, right?
Yeah.
Whether people watch the podcast or not, they may or may not use the chat.
Right.
And the other thing I would suggest, it's not in the instructions for how we've set this up, but I would say if you use Twitter, I would even do a Twitter that says hashtag 250 sats per dollar for the Bitcoin dog or something like that. Just so you're letting the world of Twitter know, okay, you've documented that we did a transaction and we did it on Sunday. We didn't actually do that one today.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the kind of interesting thing in question in terms of the meeting of the minds and this vision of Telegram groups and Telegram channels. At this time, July 16th, when we're recording, we're valuing 250 sats per dollar. But 5 years from now, the Telegram channel would have, maybe we're saying 600 sats per dollar. Maybe we're saying 150 sats per dollar.
Exactly.
I have a feeling we're going to value the sats per dollar value will increase, though, probably not decrease.
Maybe again,
who knows?
Any two parties. So any two parties can agree to the value of the network, and they could even start their own Telegram channel for that valuation.
Yeah.
And the more every single currency in the world is in a race to zero, the higher probability that the asset is going to move up to bigger numbers. But that's
separate from valuing the network, right?
We're
valuing the network.
Completely a separate issue.
Yeah.
At some point, the asset will be worth more than what we've assessed the network to be worth.
Yeah.
And then anything over that 250 sats per dollar will be essentially, okay, now we're paying for the asset. We can decide to do that unilaterally. It's not like, and I think what will happen in it, let's say if this idea takes off, there'll be a market on Wall Street, and there'll be people in Telegram doing deals where they value the network differently. There's nothing to stop someone from starting another Telegram chat right now today at 500 sats per dollar, or 1,000 sats per dollar, or 2,000 sats per dollar. Nothing.
Yeah. So that's what's kind of interesting is it could be the case that the market is valuing 100 million Satoshis at 1 million US dollars, but you and I might still choose to value the Bitcoin network at 250 sats per dollar.
Yep.
So, separating out the value of the network versus the value of the asset. So,
as you said, at some point, maybe Jack Mallers decides to create another user interface that actually starts to accumulate some data on how people want to apportion and value the network. And all it is a software thing, not a hard coded into the protocol or the network. And it's a way of here's my hypothesis. There are plenty of Bitcoiners who feel deep down to their core that the Bitcoin network and protocol is ridiculously undervalued, and they're willing to put their money where their mouth is. They're willing to put their sats where their mouth is and document it, and perhaps even put a hashtag out there on Twitter. Again, I'm not a big Twitter user. I have a Twitter handle, but I'm not a big Twitter user. And I would love it if in a year or two, a market develops around valuing the network at some number that's over and above whatever it is now. Because essentially right now, being generous, it's a transaction fee, right? It's the accumulation of all the transaction fees. And I just don't think that's even remotely close to fair market value. Not even, it's laughable that anybody would try and argue that that's the fair market value. I mean, I understand that the market's doing that, but that's because of the way the protocol was set up back when they were giving away, you were literally mining Bitcoin for the cost of energy. And you were getting, let's see, do the math. 100 million times 50 is what? 50 billion Satoshis per block to mine it, but nobody valued it. Okay, well, we've come a long way, baby. I'm not, a lot of people think of even the use of the term bear market, to me, creates confusion in the mind of the no coiner in particular, but even Bitcoiners, because that's an investment. Satoshis aren't an investment. Satoshis are a savings tool for preserving my life energy and my life force. They are not, I do not think of that as an investment. And I'm not insisting anybody else has to look at it that way. But when we use terms like bear market and bull market, what are we reinforcing about Bitcoin?
as if it's an investment.
It's
So
an investment.
yeah,
It's not a savings vehicle, and I'm not a hodler.
right.
I
Again,
mean, if you're a hodler, you should care less what the price of Bitcoin is today. Absolutely irrelevant.
hodler is just another word for I look
Saver.
at Satoshis as a way to save. Yeah, and it's not an investment. So
Correct.
the big thing that's interesting to me is they say bear markets are for builders. So even if as Satoshi's the asset goes down in price, the network is only getting bigger and stronger. I'm pursuing not only having a Bitcoin core or a Bitcoin full node, but also a Lightning node. So that's being bullish on the network getting bigger, stronger, and more decentralized, even as Satoshi, the asset, goes down in price. So, really associating a value for the network more than just the asset.
Well, and just so we're clear, Satoshi, when it's an asset, it's going to go up against the currency. It's not going to go down. The purchasing power goes up as the number of Satoshis needed against the currency goes down.
Yeah.
Unlike Bitcoin, where everyone wants the price to go up. I don't want the Satoshi number to go up against the dollar. I want it to go down. And again, that starts to fry people's brains because we're used to thinking about investing. No, this is purchasing power.
Yeah.
This is saving. I want a Satoshi today to have more purchasing power in a year or 10 years or 5 years. And I am very confident if I hang on to my Satoshis for 5 or 10 years, I'm very confident it's going to hold its value better than any other currency on the planet. Very confident of that.
So I want to get into this transaction you have posted. Well, we have Bitcoin Dog Day, July 10th, 2022. The first time, as far as we know, there was a Satoshi transaction that valued the Bitcoin network. And that's what was being paid for, as opposed to just simply the asset. This transaction you have in particular, it says offer for sale 1 2-foot by 3-foot replica of Domi for sale at 7,500 sats with the correction plus shipping and handling. Cost to print was US $30. So in that case, to be facilitating properly this 250 sats per dollar Telegram group, is it the case that what is the Satoshi price you're associating with the print, and then what is the network valuation?
I'm giving the poster away, and I'm paying only for the network.
So once again, we have another transaction in this spirit where we're valuing the network at 250 sats per dollar.
Correct.
And so the way you're valuing the network is in your dollar cost for the poster. So, but the important part is, instead of converting $30 US to what the market price is for the Satoshi asset of $30, which round numbers, I'm guessing could be 300,000 Satoshis, or not 300,000 Satoshis, 30,000 Satoshis or something like that. Instead, we're valuing it at 7,500 Satoshis because that's the network value, and it's being given away for free. So that's the intent of this community. You're having the poster, you're giving it for free because you want to spread the word of Domi, you want to spread the word of Declaration of Monetary Independence. And so a consumer, because your intent is really to just give the poster away for free, and you're just valuing the network, that's what reaches that 7,500 Satoshi price.
Correct. I mean, we could have started another channel, or just because of the unique nature of where the euro is, we could do a 250 sats per euro. It really, completely arbitrary. All we need is 2 parties who agree to value the network at an agreed upon price, and then just, broadcast that to the world, or at least to each other. We could have not started this channel, but we still did the transaction. Well, I can also, we didn't document it in this channel. You could document your BitcoinDog transaction with me if you wanted to in here. I don't think you need to. I really don't, but it doesn't matter. What I would like to make sure, though, just for all the listeners, is I don't want a lot of chat in here. I want offers,
You want offers and
acceptances,
transactions.
offers, acceptances, and transactions that you're documenting. And just like you've actually asked me to clarify, essentially I'm giving the poster away for free that cost me $30 US, and I'm paying for the Bitcoin, and I'm valuing the Bitcoin network
at the cost to print the poster.
I'm just valuing the Bitcoin network, and I'm using the cost to print the
Yeah,
poster as a proxy. It doesn't, again, I could have valued it at anything I wanted to, but
yeah, it could be anything.
Right.
Very, very cool. So that's why if someone wants a copy of your signed poster, they need to have a meeting of the minds. They have to value the network as you do, if they want to have that poster.
Correct, for that price.
Yeah. So this is great. I love it.
And you know, and there's another point we haven't made yet, and I want to make it.
Okay.
I don't give up my Satoshis lightly. So when I paid you in Satoshis, I could have paid you in dollars, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was an option or not, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have bought it at all if I didn't pay for it in dollars.
Refuse to use the USD monetary network.
But I'm only going to give up my Satoshis when someone's valued the network fairly.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the same thing, only it's the reverse, right? Okay, I'm willing to actually sell you the poster, but it had better be valuing the network fairly. And so again, it's all very much buyer and seller meeting of the minds on the value of the network, and everything else is commentary. Everything else is silliness.
That's right. So then my other follow-on question is, let's say I'm a Satoshi maximalist as opposed to a Bitcoin maximalist, just to really emphasize valuing the network separate from the asset. When it comes time to express that I do value the network itself, is that something that I really can only do at transaction time? Is that considered separate from acquiring savings in Satoshis?
I don't know. That's a great question. We're kind of blazing new trail here. My gut says, it's what I said earlier, I'm only going to give up my Satoshis when we've valued the Bitcoin network and protocol fairly. No one can make me give it up sooner. And I'm only going to give it up when someone's willing to do that with me. And we can document it. Maybe we only do one transaction in 2022. Okay. Well, we've had the BitcoinDog book day, right? We valued the Bitcoin network at 250 sats per dollar. We could have valued, somebody else could value it at a different number. There's no formal market on Wall Street right now, or even on Telegram, that requires it to be one thing or another. I believe, and I think you agree with me, that the best way to maintain and preserve purchasing power is through Satoshis or sats, and the network that it runs on, that's run 13 years almost perfectly with no downtime and has never been hacked, is the Bitcoin network and protocol. All right, well, that includes the developers. What we're saying to those developers, what we're saying to every volunteer who's running a node, who's mining. So there are some miners who are probably not earning any block rewards. They literally aren't part of a pool. Okay, but they're still securing the network. All right, well, I want to send that message. Even if I'm not sending sats to them, I still want to send the message to them, to the World Economic Forum, to every central banker on the planet, to the Bank of International Settlements. Hey, look, I value this network at this amount. And it will just so happen to be able to solve 15, 20, 30 years down the road when the block rewards become insignificant. And if for some reason the reward for transaction fees isn't where it needs to be, we've established that, in fact, there is a value to it in 2022 between two people. Okay. Maybe we would also think we're nutcases. That's fine. I don't care.
So I think
I don't think we'll be alone, by the way. I really don't. I'm not saying there'll be tons of transactions done, but I think there are other people willing to put their sats where their mouth is and value the Bitcoin network at some amount that right now they're freeloading. right?
I mean, as you say, if one other person listening to us joins our group, or if one transaction is facilitated where we can demonstrate another Bitcoiner or another person put value on the network of Bitcoin itself, as opposed to simply the Satoshi asset, that'll have been fantastic. I mean, that's how this thing is propagating. This is truly a grassroots movement from the people, Bitcoiners. I was going to say also, so ultimately, I feel like your sentiment is pretty bullish, because I think most would agree that part of the current USD market price for a Satoshi asset includes people valuing the Bitcoin network, that the Bitcoin network value is in a sense a little bit baked into the value of Satoshis on the market. But you and I might feel that the Bitcoin network overall is severely undervalued and underappreciated, and the amount that the Bitcoin network is not valued enough ultimately will lead to a much greater Satoshi asset price. For the people who think the Satoshi asset price should be reflecting the value of the Bitcoin network, we think it's grossly undervaluing the value of the network. So
yeah, I mean, on a best
asset going up.
That's exactly right. I know we've got about 5 minutes left. That's exactly right. And the point is, you've got to draw the line somewhere. You've got to we didn't, until May of 2010, the asset had no value.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. So on that day, the asset had value, the network was free. I mean, this is sort of how I look at it.
Yeah.
Or I could say it was all network and no asset, but I think it would make more sense to say the asset has value on that day.
Something exchange hands. Satoshi's exchange hands.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
But what we did when you sold me your book,
yeah,
is we've established that between two people who are well informed. See, the thing is, if you do 1,000 hours of research on Bitcoin and you don't think that we've undervalued even the network, even at 250 sats per dollar, I'll be a little surprised, actually, if they do 1,000 hours of homework on it, right? Knowing what we know, it's still ridiculously underpriced. It should be in the millions of dollars. At least the network should be 400,000. The asset should be whatever it is. And again, as long as there's a market, all right, well, the market takes how many people? 2.
There's no company on earth that could do this. Even Western Union can't move value like this quickly, this easily,
safely, securely,
and with no permission anywhere,
with no hacking, permissionless,
final settlement
on my little device.
Yeah, no one can do this. So yeah, it's of course completely undervalued. I was going to ask really fast the last question. What would you say to anyone who thinks it's too late to get started in Bitcoin?
It is so early, because nobody understands. I wrote an article for Bitcoin Magazine, and it basically is, I quoted Jameson Lopp. Nobody understands Bitcoin, and that's okay. So right now, there's a beautiful arbitrage moment for anybody having the courage to do the homework and get into Bitcoin. And if you do, and you have a willingness to hold on to it for at least 5 years against any currency, all of which are going to zero, you are going to be well rewarded, as long as you don't need to live on it and you don't use leverage to get it. Either of those two puts you in a slightly different category. Then stablecoins makes more sense. So it is still ridiculously early, because nobody's even valuing the Bitcoin network and protocol yet, until you and I did it. And once that starts to happen, then we'll start to see, I think what will happen is the market price will start to move up to what we valued the network, and then it will of course exceed it. And then we'll have to decide whether or not we need to change the value of the network. I mean, I think the network is whatever the network is, but it's still ridiculously early. And in fact, in some ways, if I'd have waited and, gone, way more in. So in November of 2020, I get in over a period of, months. Right now, it's so low relatively that there's probably less risk when doing it risk adjusted, less risk you're taking today to get in to the Satoshis as an asset as it was in November of 2020. So
All right, you heard it here. Mark Maraia says it's so early. Thanks, Mark, for coming on to the show.
You are more than welcome. It was a lot of fun, Will. Hopefully we'll do it again. You
All
take
right,
care.
see you.